Hello. Over the past several decades, I've solved a lot of the problems of national and international importance, and I sent the information on to the federal government, and also I included all state governors and the president and U.S. senators, all of them, and also about 100 to 150 congressmen, depending upon which districts were more pertinent and which committees they've served on. It started in 1984 when I was successful in convincing the Soviets to change their system of government. This is all explained in the next section under franklacey.com, USSR Demise. And I have a copy of a letter of gratitude from the Czech Republic's Prime Minister's office thanking me for what I did. And they said that they weren't going to send the letter unless they could independently prove what had happened. And apparently they had. There were some other proofs in there. You can make up your own mind on franklinlacey.com, my website. That was between 1984 and 1989. And then in April of 1995, I came up with a solution for welfare reform. That was when the federal government says, well, we'll give it all the money to the state because the state couldn't do a worse job than us. And so I wrote out a solution. Part of my solution was a welfare entitlement card. They had food stamps at the time, and under my own expense, I had these made up and sent to each U.S. senator, the president, about 130 congressmen, and all the state governors. And it was very well received. Minnesota was the first one to adopt it in lieu of food stamps, and there was a lot of fraud and waste prevented here. And also I had established the importance of a mentoring program, and I gave an example of the story of Juan in my letter. And that's in the third page of my website. You can look it up under welfare reform. Governor Tommy Thompson, I'm sure he incorporated some of my ideas, and then he came up with some of his own of limiting the term of welfare coverage. And so it was kind of a joint effort on that. Then on top of that, I set up for Medicare, Medicaid solutions and healthcare solutions. And all my solutions tend to not cost the country anything. I abhor shelling out private individuals to support a lot of earmark and special interest spending. And this seems to be the prevalence that Congress gets campaign contributions, and then they turn around and the people get on the short end of the stick. The proof of all the things I've done is in the fact that I was able to convince senators and Republicans alike to adopt my ideas. And as you can look through my website, I do have follow-on letters received from them. The Medicare Medicaid solution, there are some letters of acceptance in there, and also Hillary Clinton in her recent health care speech, about 3/4 of the way through, she outlined exactly my system. She said they started working on it about 2 years ago because that's when they got the cost savings and figured out it'd save around $100 billion a year, and the cost would be about $200 million. And she said that they were considering over a period of 4 years, apparently before that, and that was just when I sent them the information in my proposal. And so consequently, that would be, I think it was April 9th, 2001. And so as a result, they are working on it. Senator Kerry estimated the cost would be $325 billion, but he didn't say over what period. And President Bush, in a speech, estimated the cost savings would be 21%. That does not count the doctor's office savings and the savings in cost to us of our medical coverage. And so I think it's a very comprehensive plan, and it's well worth passing, and part of it has been indeed passed. Past that, I had an elderly rights issue. Before, it used to be that the elderly had just had a living will that says don't take any heroic steps, and that was it, and they signed it. And now they've got a living will because I partially probably because of my issue with my dad's passing, and that's covered in one of the later ones, that I highly value life, and these people were starving my dad and depriving him of liquids because he didn't ask to be fed. I mean, that's ridiculous. He had gone into unconsciousness because he fell off his bed, and then he came back, and he was very alert, and he was figuring he'd just wait for supper, and it never came because he didn't specifically ask for it. Isn't that classic? So they starved him to death, and they wanted to clear his hospital bed because they sell their units to people, bungalows, at a large price, and then when the people pass on, they can resell it. So it's a matter of profit for them to increase the turnover, and that was their incentive at this elderly care facility, and it was one of the best ones, and still this was going on. Now you have to spell out everything about your living will. Also, there's some tax savings for the elderly, and a lot of promotion I was doing on getting the interest and dividend rate down. I wanted it free for the elderly, and it's been reduced. I started on that campaign back around the capital gains tax was raised to 28% at that time. I wrote Bob Dole, who was majority leader, and he had an answer for the people that justified the capital gains tax being lower. Past that, I had submitted, and I believe it was May 23rd, 2005, 3 solutions. One was for Social Security, which is on the top of the list of what they're favorably considering, and one was on tort reform, which President Bush, on the follow-on State of the Union message, said he was going to make that very high priority. And then another one was on sexual predators, and they are doing that following my solutions, and that was with ankle bracelets with GPS going up to the satellites. And the idea is to prevent the repeat offenders from molesting a child or killing a child. And so consequently, if he gets within proximity of a child with a little wristband receiver, or in proximity of the school, or a school bus that's coming to a stop, the school bus driver wouldn't let the school children off because his receiver would sound saying that the guy was within 300 feet. And if he gets within 7 feet, it sets off a signal to the satellite for the police to come and pick him up. And there's a means of not making the ankle bracelet removable. If you cut into it, it's going to send off a signal, and they'll pick him up for that as an equally important offense. And so he goes back, instead of 5 years parole, he has 10 years parole, and then on third offense, life imprisonment, get these guys off the street without repeat offending. So that's very, very favorably picked up. You can read it in the section on my website, franklinlacey.com. And then last year it was illegal immigrants, and that was the idea to phase out the immigrants over a period of 5 years. This was written in April 7th, 2006. And this was just when Congress had adjourned, and they're going to come back and vote on giving them amnesty, just like in 1986. And I said there's a better solution, and that is to lean on the employers, make it more expensive for the employers to hire them than not hire them, require the employers to report and check out that they're legitimate U.S. citizens and have the data processing taken care of so that they can have a place to look up and to find out if somebody else is already using that Social Security number so that you can catch them that way too. And if they don't turn in illegal aliens, then they get raided and all their illegal aliens get swept up and brought across the border. But if they do turn in and fence the illegal aliens and not hire them, then they're allowed to spread their phasing out over a 5-year period, which is fair. Then they can hire either Americans or documented workers coming legally from Mexico to the United States with their documents in hand. And as more of these come in, then those who are here who came across illegally will get themselves back across the border because they'd be refused work. And right now it's just kind of a situation